Thanks for joining us. Today, I have a very special interview. It is with my cousin, Alyssa Eberwein, an ICU nurse who has seen things that we cannot possibly even begin to fathom. And I invited her here to tell her story, to share her experiences, and most importantly, what we can learn from her experience. So hi, Alyssa. Thank you so much for being with me.
Hi, no problem. I'm very excited to be here.
So this is my cuz. I have to say that. It's super fun. I'm really excited about that. So, Alyssa, just take me a little bit through a day in the life, if you would.
Sure. So, as an ICU nurse, or any nurse actually, most of us work 12-hour shifts and kind of winds up being more like 13 hours. So, the day usually brings a lot of challenges, a lot of good things, a lot of teamwork. Our floor is, we can't do anything without teamwork, especially with, having the quarantine rooms. Most of our patients on the floor are in quarantine, but the hard thing about the quarantine rooms when you're working throughout the day is when you go in there, you can't really come out. So if you need little things like, I don't even know how many times as a nurse I run in and out of the rooms all day, grab this, oh, I forgot that, let me get that. So I'm knocking on the glass of the room or hitting my call light, and someone's coming and grabbing me whatever I need. And sometimes that can happen like 3 times while I'm in the room because I'm just thinking of other things that I should do. So the biggest thing that they told us when all this started was to try to limit exposure in the rooms as much as possible. So try not to go in if you don't have to. Well, that's really hard in an ICU. Because the patients are just so sick. There's so many things you need to do with them. And yeah, that's really the day is just running in and out of quarantine. We're suiting up, suiting down.
Oh my gosh. So there's been a lot of discussion regarding PPE and equipment and the proper things that you have to wear. Can you speak a little bit about that and what that feels like? Is it a lot of layers? Is it hot? Is it uncomfortable? I mean, I personally don't really know what it entails. So I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So like on a normal day, like we call it pre-COVID, you don't really, the most we would wear is like a surgical mask for like flu patients or something like that. So when all this started, it was definitely a lot to get used to. It makes you a little bit anxious. It entails, for right now, things have changed over time because of PPE with amounts that have run out throughout the United States. And I'm not just talking about like hospital to hospital. We all know it's like within the United States. So we've made adjustments, but where I work, like they're really great on providing what we need. So we wear an N95 mask, and then we wear a surgical mask over that to protect the N95 mask. So you pretty much have 2 masks on. And then not all of us, a lot of us wear a surgical cap that we wear all day. And then we wear like a face shield, so that goes on nice and over your face. And then I wear 2 gowns. I wear one that I tie in the back and the one that I tie in the front, just to make all my upper body, my skin, my scrubs are closed and not exposed. So that's kind of the outfit. It does get very hot, especially, with ICU patients. You could get a patient from the ER who has not been intubated yet, who was doing okay, and all of a sudden they're crashing, and now you're in there for 2 hours. Intubating takes time to get the team there. So you're talking about team after team coming into the room while you're the primary nurse. Of course, you're not going to leave the room. So I think the most I've spent in a quarantine room so far is about 2.5 hours. Some of my colleagues have been in for like 5 hours, which is just, it's hard. It's hard because you're literally breathing in your CO2. So, you tend to get like a little short breath. You usually come out of, like the other day, I was in a room for a long time. I came out of the room and I was like, oof, I feel like I just ran a marathon. So I always come out sweating. So no, I'm not I'm in there a lot of hours because there's just sometimes so many things to do, but you'd be surprised how quickly time passes when you're literally saving someone's life. Time just like flies. So, you don't even realize you're in there for that long until you start to sweat and you're like, oh, maybe I've been in here for a little too long.
And you bring up a really, really good point, which is, these stakes are so high. So you're talking about wearing all of this equipment and being on your feet for 2.5 hours. And a lot of people are thinking, okay, I have that in my job. But you just said something that was really impactful. You are saving someone's life. Like it's not you're giving out a Pepsi over here, it's the stakes are so high. Do you feel that pressure, or are you just in work mode?
We all try to like preemptively get ourselves going and get in the room or do whatever we need to do. But you do feel that like adrenaline rush, like, oh my gosh, like I need to move. There's no time to think about, I'm thirsty right now. I am a little hungry right now. My sugar feels a little low. Like when it's game time, it's game time pretty much. The mental portion that comes with it of taking care of sick patients and all of that, I could not be more thankful and gracious and for the team that we have. Like we truly kick ass. Like we do it every day. The teamwork is incredible. The doctors are incredible. Nothing gets missed. It's amazing. And that makes me want to go to work. I think I've said to you before, like I can explain to you what it's like. I can explain to my husband what it's like, my family, but it still doesn't truly put into perspective like how intense it truly is.
So one thing we were talking about though that I wanted to share is that some people don't know that when you get admitted with COVID, you're alone. No one can come with you, right?
No one. No, and it's not even COVID patients. It is all patients. Even if you are not in for COVID or symptoms of that, it's all patients. Yeah.
And no one can come in throughout the duration that you're in the hospital, correct?
No one. Nope.
Is that really hard?
It is. Obviously, it's probably harder on families than us, but it definitely brings a component to us because we are not only the nurse, we're a hand to hold, we're support, we're family, we're someone to cry with, we're literally everything. So it's not just a physical job for us or a job. It's, we are all of those other components to a person. One where I was the person who held a patient's hand as they took their last breath. I've done that. It was a COVID positive patient. She was an older woman. Of course, family was not there. They're not allowed to be. My patient was close to passing away, and I went in there and I held her hand, and I talked to her about Jesus, and I prayed for her that she would go to heaven, and it was extremely emotional, and I cried, and I could cry now.
Oh
but that's our job. Our job is to take care of those who can't take care of themselves, and that includes dying. I mean, for me, that's, not every nurse is going to do that, but me and my heart, I can't sit outside a glass door and watch a woman die by herself. No. That's not me. So, I took that emotional burden on myself, because that becomes an emotional burden onto yourself. And I stayed in the room with her, and as an ICU nurse, that this stuff is going to happen. My mom has said to me, in a nice way, of course, like, you have kind of signed up for this. Like, you knew this was going to be a part of it. And I said, yeah, that's true. But not so much at one time for months on end. We might see one here and there, people not making it, things like that. But we do see a lot of good on a normal day. So, and on top of it, a lot of times when our patients aren't doing well, we put them on something called comfort care, which is, the families have decided to let them go peacefully so that they're not in pain anymore. But you have families there to be that extra person that they can spend time with the patient. And I can put that like emotional wall up and keep myself as a nurse instead of a person, if that makes sense.
What do you think is a misconception about nurses, specifically maybe being an ICU nurse, because you can only speak from your own experience? What do you think is a misconception that people have, and what do you want to tell people?
I don't know. I think that people don't actually realize what we go through. I think that's like the biggest thing. You don't truly understand it unless you're a nurse. Even when I come home, my husband has been nothing but supportive and great. But I also don't think he truly gets how intense it is. I don't think you truly understand the amount of things that an ICU nurse does in a day to keep someone alive.
You guys really are the front line of this war. If we were in a war and there was an army, nurses, doctors, the whole healthcare workers, they're in the front of it. And I don't know if you guys acknowledge that. I know I've called you a hero and you don't want to hear that. And most people say that. They're like, I'm not a hero, I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
But it's really phenomenal to me. And I think that it's kind of mind-blowing that you probably never thought you would be put into this position.
Never.
And now all of a sudden, you are the most important industry in our entire country and the whole world.
Yeah. The recognition is pretty mind-blowing. It's like indescribable. I don't think I've ever felt so like humbled, so thankful. Like it's I didn't sign up to be in, most people who sign up for war, they sign up because they want to. I signed up to be a nurse. I didn't sign up to be in a pandemic, but like I said, I learned it in school. I probably didn't listen to the topic, and here we are. Like, so, and that's the craziest part. No, I didn't sign up to be a nurse to be in a pandemic and to do this. And when I became an ICU nurse, I didn't think, oh, I'm going to be an ICU nurse so I can be the front lines of a pandemic. You don't obviously think that way, and here we are.
Do you ever think about not going into work or changing careers or anything? Has this pandemic had a mindset shift at all?
Not at all. No, not at all. Not at all. Like I said, I love what I do. Yes, this is an extremely different circumstance than obviously we all would like, but I do love the critical care aspect. I love what you can do in this day and age to keep someone alive and get them back with their families. I mean, the most incredible feeling to see, to watch my patient after a month on a ventilator get on a stretcher to go to rehab, and to see her husband over, probably 10 feet away, because technically she still was positive, going to rehab, to see him 10 feet away and to see them lock eyes for the first time. It's just like, that is the stuff that I live for. And that's why I'm a nurse and an ICU nurse, and I'll take the bad with all of it. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it. It's been difficult for me. I don't think I've cried this much in my career. Not to be all sad and depressing, but I don't think I've cried this much. I've had some really emotional moments where I've just had to let it out. But I wouldn't change my career at all.
What have you learned about yourself in this experience?
I've learned I am one strong nurse. I actually have texted my preceptor. I always looked at him as like the ultimate nurse. Like, he knew how to be independent when needed. He knew what his patients needed. He had everything like that. And I text him all the time. I'm like, thank you for just like teaching me how to like be that independent, smart, like know what to do nurse. And I think that's like what I've learned most about myself is that I'm actually a really strong nurse. And I just love all the skills that I've learned from this.
I can speak for our entire family to say that we're super proud of you, but I think I can speak for our entire country and say that we're super proud of you, because what you do every day is just completely unfathomable to anyone else. And I'm really, really proud of you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
What message do you have for the public as a nurse?
What you can do for me is stay home. You can stay home and just make the best out of this. You know, I know how many people are also struggling being home with this and want things reopened and want to keep moving. You know, but truthfully, they're not the only ones struggling. You know, nurses are struggling, doctors are struggling. We're all struggling mentally on a different level. And none of us ever thought we would go through this, you know. So we just all need to keep like hanging in there and holding on and you know, yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Alyssa. Thank you for the time. Thank you for being an amazing, caring, wonderful individual.
Oh, thank you. And for you too. Thank you for having me and talking this out. I wouldn't talk it out with anybody else.